What's going on, guys? It is me, Lone Vault Wanderer, and I'm just here with a random discussion video. This has been a topic that I've actually been fairly interested in. We've touched upon it slightly in a couple of past podcasts, but I really wanted to have a separate video discussing what Bethesda is actually going to be showing at their conference at this year's E3. We know that Bethesda has booked in another conference at E3 this year in follow-up of their, pretty successful conference from last year where they announced Fallout 4 and showed off Doom gameplay. But I really want to nut out what's to come now. Fallout 4 has been announced, and that's obviously one of their mainstay titles nowadays. But I want to run down the list of things that I think that they're going to be talking about. Some are really obvious, some not so much. So first of all, Fallout 4. We know that there's 3 pieces of DLC. Well, one's already come, and that's the Automatron DLC. But a couple of months ago, whenever it was, Bethesda made the announcement that Automatron's coming, Wasteland Workshop is coming, and of course Far Harbor is coming. But I think it's a very, very safe bet to say that at E3, at the conference itself, Bethesda is saving another big DLC announcement, just a suite of DLC that will probably include another couple of smaller pieces of DLC, such as Wasteland Workshop and Automatron. But I think we'll get one, if not 2 announcements of actual major pieces of DLC, fully fledged pieces such as Far Harbor. We touched upon it in today's podcast that we recorded, and that's going up on Maddie's channel, by the way. Past Fallout games such as 3 and New Vegas have typically had 4 major pieces of DLC that they do. With Fallout 4, I think it's going to be the same. I think it's going to be stretched out over a longer period with little smaller bits of DLC sprinkled out in between, but I still think we're going to get that magic 4 number. So obviously the Bethesda E3 presentation is going to be a great way or a great platform to announce one of those bigger pieces and get everyone really excited for Fallout 4 again, because if you are a bit, disheartened about the smaller pieces of DLC coming out for Fallout 4 and really want those, big quest lines, big storylines that hopefully Far Harbor is going to be, then I think the E3 presentation is what you want to look at, and I think Bethesda is definitely going to deliver on that, because it's a major presentation and Bethesda has to compete with the likes of Xbox and Sony, so they really need to knock it out of the park, and they don't have a big game like Fallout 4 that's just instantly going to bring them all of this hype, so they need to work from it, but I think we'll receive some big news with Fallout 4. Now with Doom, this one isn't so obvious because Doom is actually coming out next month on May 13th. The beta is out at the moment. I'm having a ton of fun playing it. It's just such a fun game. It's making me actually, have fun with the game, and I haven't had that feeling in a fairly long time. A lot of games take themselves a bit too seriously. Doom doesn't. It's just a gory game with cool guns, with fast-paced action, with bright colors. It's just great, and I know I've been having a lot of fun playing it. I can't wait to actually play it with a bunch of friends. In fact, Maddie and I streamed it, so if you check out Maddie's Twitch channel, you'll see a past broadcast of him and I playing the Doom beta, so I hope you do enjoy that. But because Doom is coming out in May, I'm wondering when E3 rolls around, which is June, are we going to get anything from Doom? I think we will. I think we'll get a content pack of some sort of DLC, but it can't just be something as small as skins or new weapons or whatever. It's got to be fairly substantial, I think, if you're going to announce something like that at an E3 presentation, because that comes with all sorts of implications and consequences. If you just talk about something really small, people will be like, is that really something of a caliber to be announcing at an E3 presentation? So I think we'll probably get something a little bit bigger. I think at that stage, because Doom will have been out for a month, that we'll at least get an announcement of future DLC. Probably bigger DLC, because let's remember that Doom actually does have a single player campaign. So I think we could get, similar with Wolfenstein, we could get an announcement at the very least, or some sort of talk about future DLC, such as a single player campaign DLC, maybe more multiplayer maps, things like that, maybe more demons in the multiplayer, or new guns, or whatever, but it has to be a fairly meaty announcement. It can't just be new skins and new colors and that's about it. But I am looking forward to it. I hope that we see something really good. So Dishonored 2 has been a game game that I've really been anticipating and excited for. I was fairly late to the Dishonored franchise. I played Dishonored 1, or just Dishonored, only quite recently. I think it was at the end of last year, actually. And I really liked it. Its story was okay. I think it could have done a lot better in that regard. But the gameplay was so fun. I really appreciated that art style. It's kind of like that Bioshocky art style that I really enjoy. The characters were interesting, the levels were interesting, but more importantly, I think at the top of the list for Dishonored was the gameplay. You know, playing as Corvo, as this assassin, you could do so many different things, especially with the powers, and I'm really looking forward to playing as Emily in Dishonored 2, because in Dishonored 2 you actually get to play as Emily and you get to play as an older Corvo. And I'm really looking forward to that, because you actually get the choice at one stage. Like, you're initially forced to play as Emily, but then you can branch off and say, do I want to play as Corvo and do I want to play as Emily? And I really want to see what Emily brings to the table. Just seeing from some of the trailers, her powers are fucking awesome, they're unique, and in terms of a storyline aspect, I think Emily could tell a really good story, because she suffered such heartache in the event of the original Dishonored. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but if you've played it, you'll be very well aware that she did suffer some heartache, and I don't think that, you know, that heartache of hers would have been quelled at the end of Dishonored. I think there's still a bit of a story to tell, and I'm really excited to see the world from her perspective. And of course as well, this game actually adds more depth, because then you can go back and play as Corvo, which essentially gives you a minimum of 2 playthroughs. So in terms of E3 though, I think we're definitely going to be seeing a huge showing of Dishonored 2 at E3. I think Bethesda really needs to make Dishonored a big franchise, maybe towards the ilk of a Bioshock, for example. It's never going to reach the stage of a Fallout or even a Doom, but I think Dishonored could be a real mid-tier contender, if you will. I've been watching too much wrestling. WrestleMania's tomorrow. But I think it could be a really solid franchise moving forward. It's relatively popular at this stage, but I think Bethesda could really knock it out of the park with a big showing at E3, so we'll definitely see some of that. We actually don't have a date for Dishonored 2, I don't think. I think all we've been given was Q3 of 2016, so we might get a more confirmed date for that game, which is just going to be awesome. I want to be, you know, counting down the days to be able to play Dishonored 2, and particularly play as Emily. And now we come to Battlecry. Battlecry seems to be an interesting game. It's being completed or developed by Battlecry Studios, funny enough, and it's intended to be an online multiplayer third-person combat game. It was actually previewed at E3 of last year, and according to Wikipedia, it's set to be released sometime this year. I don't think there's a solid release date. This one is interesting because Battlecry, as I said, is a multiplayer game. What other multiplayer game is coming out soon for Bethesda? Doom. So I can't see them releasing Battlecry anytime soon, because it's effectively going to be somewhat of a competitor to Doom if it was released at a similar time. So I think Battlecry is a game that we will definitely hear about, I think, at E3 of this year at their presentation. And we might get a release date as well, but it's probably going to be until later this year sometime. I don't know whether you agree with me or not. I haven't really been following Battlecry so closely because, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like a game that I'd personally play or get all that excited for. But I think we'll see something about Battlecry at E3. And lastly, we've got Elder Scrolls Legends, and this is pretty funny because Pete Hines has actually just talked about on Twitter that they're getting closer to talking about it and showing the actual game, but they're not quite there yet. And I think this is incredibly indicative of the fact that we will see something about Elder Scrolls Legends at E3, because they still got about 2 months to work on it to get the gameplay right and to give us a really big showing at E3, because I think that being an E3 presentation, Bethesda needs to show some sort of Elder Scrolls, and Elder Scrolls Legends could be a way to fill that void, because while it isn't, you know, a fully fledged Elder Scrolls game, it's something that Elder Scrolls fans can, you know, enjoy and have their appetites whet. And because of that, I think this game is another safe bet of seeing at this year's E3 by Bethesda. And aside from all of those though, I don't know what else could come. You know, I could be wrong in some of my assumptions, and there could be a brand new title or a brand new game, or even something new about an existing game or an existing IP that Bethesda owns. So if I'm wrong, or if you have any other thoughts or suggestions or ideas about what Bethesda is going to be talking about and revealing at E3 of this year, please let me know in the comments below. And until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourself, and as always, keep fighting the good fight.